Good morning, folks. How are you doing? Today is the 26th day of March, 2023. It is about 9:30 in the morning on a Sunday, a lovely Sunday down here in Tampa, Florida. I'm going to talk about a couple things today. One thing that's near and dear to my heart, hurricanes, of course. Yes, and there's the screaming one. She's my co-pilot, and she's actually an interesting. Since she is my co-pilot, she can make an interesting point for us. What's that? What are you saying? Yes. What do you recommend we do today? Oh, okay. Well, I'm not listening to your point of view. I don't care about your point of view. Even though you're my co-pilot, I really don't care. I'm going my own way. Is that okay with you? No, it doesn't matter. We're doing it my way, and that's it. My way or the highway. Yeah, you're not big on that idea, are you? I want you to keep that in mind as the video goes on. Yes, that is Gabby. Cricket is down there, and Kitten is right outside the door. The whole fucking kitten caboodle, so to speak. I'm going to talk about a couple things today. We're going to talk about China, and we're going to talk about rushing headlong, willy-nilly, into a hurricane. Because you know best, because your mental image tells you what you want it to tell you. And that is exactly what we are doing these days. Let me show you something real quick. How China keeps putting off its Lehman moment. It's putting off its Lehman moment according to this guest essay the New York Times posted today. Because they know damn well they're going to have a collapse just like we did. And even though they're not quite the same kind of market economy we are, according to this author, the New York Times, the inevitabilities of economics are the same for everyone. And I posit, and history posits, that's not necessarily true. Let me read this for you a little bit. China is still not a fully market economy, despite the country's 2001 entry into the World Trade Organization. Decades of economic reform and a slow but steady integration into the global financial system. But that doesn't mean that China can indefinitely defy economic orthodoxy. And debt levels in this financial system are alarmingly high. But the doom and gloom is usually overblown because the government has virtually unlimited power to head off crises by directing resources and appropriating pain. Cat, don't step on my goddamn keyboard. As it sees fit, often by ordering banks and other creditors to accept losses or for the greater good before things get out of hand. Evergrande is a prime example. One of China's largest real estate developers. It amassed huge debts to expand its business, as did many of its rivals. But when China's government began imposing financial restrictions on property companies in 2020 out of concern for spiraling debt and home prices, Evergrande was cut off for further fundraising and formally defaulted on its debts. Of course, then, that was the Lehman warnings reached its crescendo at that point in time. Then, of course, China did something else. China did something we didn't do. We let it crash, and then we subsequently decided to just throw money at it and hand the same people who crashed our economy money. Why? Because that's what the whole plan was to start with. That's the difference. When they say they're not fully market economy, what they mean is it's not a free market economy. It's a regulated market economy. And that's the difference. The other difference is because of our free market system as opposed to a regulated market system, which means government has control over how far they can go and what they do, i.e. removing Glass-Steagall, i.e. stopping Brooksley Bourne and government regulators from taking a look at the very same derivatives that were used to destroy our economy in 2008. They still have safety measures in place. They still have regulations stating how far they can go. Now, I'm going to give you an example of something. I'm going to give you an example of this. As it pertains to, I'm going to use a shipping vessel, a trade vessel, what do they call those things? Container tanker or container fucking ship as an example of what we're talking about. And the ship I'm talking about was called the SS El Faro, or El Faro, my fault, El Faro. Translation, lighthouse. In 2015, October 1st, about 8 o'clock in the morning, 8:15 in the morning, El Faro gave in to its listing, well over 18 degrees, and the fact that the oil sump, because of the 18-degree listing, to the wrong side, was unable to pump oil into the energy, into the system, the engine system. Their engines froze up, and they were just adrift. And that was October 1st, about 8:30 in the morning, 2015. And El Faro slipped beneath the waves while Hurricane Joaquin was raging all around her. She didn't need to go. She didn't need to fucking vanish. She didn't need to crash like our economy crashed, like the Chinese economy didn't. So what happened to El Faro? There's a great video. I just finished watching it. It's called Disastrous Indifference: The Loss of SS El Faro. And it was made a couple months ago by this guy, Brick and Mortar, over at YouTube. And I'll post a link to it. It's an hour and 15, 20 minutes. I want you to go watch it, if you can. Because we'll talk about the captain, or what the shipmaster, the decisions the shipmaster made. We'll talk about those in terms of what I just did, my little display with my cat, my co-pilot, as it were. We'll talk about those decisions, but we'll also talk about what the NTSB discovered. And that was a systemic history. It's remarkable. An indifference to anything but the bottom line for the company that owned it, which is Tote, which used to be called Totem, and they had some problems, and then they decided to change the name to Tote. They didn't take care of it. They didn't manage it. It should have been put out to pasture a long, long time before October 1st, 2015. It had multiple problems. But what was at the core of the problems was they didn't want to spend the money. And it was, at best, just barely passable in terms of whether it was seaworthy or not. But it certainly wasn't. And the entire system wasn't designed to deal with something on this kind of a magnitude. At one point in time, the captain, calls, and there's a recording of the call where he's trying to talk to somebody to get a QI, which is a qualified individual, on the phone to talk to him. And he has to leave a message at one place for his emergency contact on land, because that guy had been off for a couple of days and there had been nobody put in play, and they hadn't rerouted the phone calls to some other person on land for it to be his emergency contact in case of an emergency. Not that it would have mattered much, because the emergency contacts, apparently, according to the NTSB, hadn't been fucking trained on what to do in the event of the situation they found themselves in. So it would have been useless anyway, but there was nobody home. When he called, there was literally nobody home. Then he calls, and he's on the fucking, he's got like a 911 person at Tote's fucking main offices, and he's trying to find a QI. It's a qualified individual to talk about. They were in a fucking hurricane. They had no fucking power anymore. They were listing 18 fucking degrees, taking on water, because hatches that were supposed to be sealed weren't fucking sealed, because the thing had been nobody had taken care of it, because Tote wanted to save fucking money. They were building a new fleet of liquid natural gas fucking vessels. They still had these vessels, and they could still run them as long as it were just blue skies and everything was hunky-dory, back and forth from Jacksonville to fucking Puerto Rico and back. Everything would be fine. There were so many fucking incidents of failure due to decisions made to save money, to make money. And we're talking about these vessels. They bank. The Faro was a massive fucking ship. And it carried a lot, 100,000 tons of fucking load of various types. Back and forth from Jacksonville to fucking Puerto Rico, and then coming back and picking up more stuff from Jacksonville, going back down to Puerto Rico. Massive fucking. They made tons of money each time this fucking thing went back and forth. But they didn't want to spend the money. And so people died. I'm going to mention this. We're going to talk a little bit more about what happened with these individuals. And I just want to say, obviously, my father was in the Navy for his whole career. He had a lot of experience at sea. And I can't imagine anything more fucking horrible for a sailor than to go down at sea. Especially in conditions like, well, there's no conditions that are good, but especially in conditions like a hurricane. It's got to be fucking awful. It's got to be fucking terrifying. And the thought, as you're alone in the blackness, bobbing around in your fucking suit, that you're just lost in this immense fucking endless void of angry water and blackness and cold. It's just the thoughts that must run through your head. I can't even imagine. My heart goes out to all of them, all 33. All 33 people on board were lost. All 33 souls were lost to this. And there's a number of people who bear responsibility. And first and foremost, we will put this on the captain, on the fucking shipmaster. The NTSB, and this is where it applies to what we're talking about in terms of China. We are the El Faro, this country, us in particular. We are the El Faro. And our shipmaster, the leaders, the great leaders of our country, are steaming us into what is well understood to be a massive fucking hurricane. But our great leaders, the masters of our ship, tell us that it'll be okay. We'll be on the fucking leeward side. We'll be on the fucking south of it. It'll be passing over it and we'll be fine. We'll be able to get right through it and skirt it and beat it and defeat it and get to the end and win. And that ain't gonna fucking happen. That ain't gonna fucking happen. And the reason our fucking glorious leaders, the shipmasters who are leading us, directing us to this end. The reason they're doing that is the same fucking reason that this man, Captain of El Faro, did it. This is what the NTSB said in their conclusion about what happened to El Faro. Among the possible explanations for the captain's decision to continue on his course relates to his understanding of the circumstances or his mental model. A mental model is a person's internal representation of events in the real world. Research has shown that people tend to seek confirmation of the mental models. From the beginning, the captain expected the storm to turn north and that they would stay on the backside of it, meaning to the south, which would be the safer side for navigation. With that expectation, the captain would have registered only that trend in the weather forecasts and ignored others that predicted different outcomes. The captain was in his early 50s, and he had ambition. He had ambition to be a master, a captain of one of the new vessels that had just come out for this company. Why do I keep wanting to call him Tater? I don't know why I want to call the fucking company Tater. It's not fucking Tater. They wanted to. He wanted to be a captain of one of the two liquid natural gas vessels because they're the nicest and the newest and everything's clean, and that was going to go to the best of the seamen. But he had a problem. He wasn't as well liked. He didn't pay attention to the fucking details, which, with these older vessels, was kind of a plus. And he thought by not paying attention to the fucking details and not paying attention and not getting pissed off because certain things weren't adequate in terms of safety. Give you an example. He thought that was a plus in the eyes of the company. Of course, it wasn't. At least at the upper echelon. He had applied once, and they had refused the first of the liquid natural gas vessels. There was a second liquid natural gas vessel coming out, and he had applied and hadn't been told yet that he had been denied that fucking post by the company. I'll give you an example. In the investigation, they came to find out, and they looked at emails and stuff sent by people who were of the 33 who were there. Of the 33, 27 were crew members. 6 were on board to do what's called a ride-along. They were a Polish electricians crew, and they were fixing electrical issues on the boat as the boat was in transit back and forth. And there were 5 of those guys, and one guy was an electrical engineer from the company. So, Tote? I keep saying Totem. Why do I say Totem? What is the name of the goddamn company? I should have that memorized at this point, but I don't think I do. And it's gone. Really? Okay. Hang on a second. Maybe this says so here. It's a Rocon. And it doesn't tell you who the fucking company was. Now I'm pissed off at myself because not only did I fucking oh, that's it right there. That's it right there. So it is owned by Tote. It is Tote. As in totem. It is Tote. My fault. In an interview or an investigation by NTSB, they came to understand that through emails, the Polish individuals on the boat were like, oh my God, this thing's in terrible shape, blah, blah, blah. there's a hurricane, they're supposed to get out the way. They had never been instructed in terms of the safety. When you go on to a ship to do a trip, to do a thing like this, to do a ride along, whatever it is, you have to be given all this instruction in terms of emergency things that you do during a fucking emergency, procedures. And one is how to get into these fucking suits. These suits are these orange suits, big feet, big hands. They go over your head, you zip them up, and you bob along on the water, and it's got a fucking bright strobe light, supposedly a beacon that you can be found by. And it'll keep you from freezing to death in the water. Or being eaten by sharks, theoretically. They weren't instructed on how to put those things on. They weren't even instructed where they were, because the captain wasn't paying attention. And so forth, he let shit slide. The trip before, there was another fucking hurricane in the area, and he had diverted the fucking path from Jacksonville down to Puerto Rico to avoid any potential bad weather. But that adds a day and a half or day and a quarter, so that just costs money. But the company, Tote, said, okay, when he said, I want to do this, they said, you do what you got to do, stay safe, and he did it. Now, the theory here was that he was refusing to do this in light of the storm that everyone knew was developing, because his last fucking trip, he had done this, and it turned out the storm really wasn't that bad on the first course, the planned course straight down there. And so he figured, because he didn't know yet, he had been denied that new post to that second liquid natural gas vessel. He didn't know he'd been denied. So the theory is he really wanted to go full steam ahead, to say, to hell with it, we're going to miss that thing, and not divert and take another day and a half, day and a quarter additional time to get that stuff down to Puerto Rico, which would cost the company money. He did it because he wanted an advancement. And so everything that he saw in terms of all the information that was put out there, all the information from the various fucking agencies that told them what they expected Hurricane Joaquin to do, he listened to and heard only what he wanted to fucking hear. Unfortunately, this was the green, see this path right here? That's what the path he took the previous time. And it would take him an extra day, but this is Joaquin here. So he would have come out of Jacksonville, gone down here, skirted here, and if things had gotten too bad, found a place to port. But he didn't. His route that they were supposed to take was this one. He chose to change a little bit off of the path, but he kept thinking to himself that because the only information he allowed himself to see was this plan from NOAA that Joaquin was going to come in here and then head northeast and be well out of the way by the time they left and got down to here and were able to make their fucking scheduled drop in Puerto Rico. Now, a lot of people on his vessel, there were 33 people who died, 6 of which were working on the electrics. Of course, you have engineers but you had a number of people on the bridge. There's a thing called bridge. There's a policy called bridge resource management, and it comes from commercial airlines called cockpit resource management. And the idea is this. If you have people who are qualified enough to be in the cockpit with you, you have a pilot, you have a co-pilot, you have a navigator. Sometimes you have somebody on a ride-along, another fucking pilot or navigator or co-pilot, whatever you have in the cockpit. If they are in the cockpit, then they are there for a fucking reason, because they have experience, they have knowledge, and they can offer up suggestion and evaluate the situation, just like the captain can. Now, of course, there's only one captain. However, as this guy in this video points out, one of the reasons that commercial airlines are safer now than they were, say, 20, 30 years ago is because, obviously, technology, but also because they have adopted this idea of cockpit resource management. It's not my way or the highway, as I displayed with my co-pilot. That kind of thing is archaic, and that mindset is the people in the cockpit are there for a reason, because they have experience, because they have knowledge, and they are a resource. They are a resource that you have to manage like any other resource, and they are a resource there when things go bad. Unfortunately, the bridge resource management fucking policy hadn't been extended from the aviation to the nautical industries. And so, my way or the highway, the old fucking, Captain Ahab fucking philosophy was well in place, at least at TOTE at the time. A number of his people kept telling him, yeah, there's this version of where the fucking hurricane's going to do and what it's going to do. But there's also another one, and there's another one here that says, this thing's going to become a fucking Category 5 at some time, and it's not going to be out of our way. It'll be too big. But he wasn't hearing that. He wasn't hearing that because, as the NTSB pointed out, he wasn't hearing that because he had his own mental model, and he was only seeing what supported his confirmation bias. He found the information he wanted to support his mental model, and his mental model had everything to do with his own advancement. Everything to do with his own advancement. So they steamed full steam ahead, eventually, into that. By the time they understood, this thing, Hurricane Joaquin, sat and waited. It didn't turn and go back up north and northeast, north by northeast. It didn't slowly depreciate in strength. It gained strength. It just got to that point where they were coming, and they were coming right through fucking here. It just got down there and sat and got stronger and stronger and waited for them. And they drove right through the middle of it. And they all died as a result. The other day, there was this fucking event that took place. It was the CEO of TikTok, Capitol Hill. And I mentioned, this the other day in a video I was talking about. And I said how fucking ridiculous it was. People were screeching at him, trying to get him to say that the Chinese government was deliberately making lampshades out of Uyghurs and all kinds of stupid bullshit lies. If they didn't push the lie, if they didn't approve the lie, then they were going to stop him from TikTok from being used in the United States. It was a spectacle. It was awful. Even the guy down here does a YouTube thing, Charlie, Penguin Zero or Moist Critical or whatever you want to call him. Even he was saying it's embarrassing to watch. It's embarrassing to watch. The unhinged people screeching crazy shit at this individual. This guy, do you know what his education is? University College of London. He graduated University of College of London. You know what he is? He's a pure 100%, went for a Bachelor of Economics, then he went to Harvard Business School. He is a pure 100% neoliberal free marketeer. And they were screeching at him as if he was some kind of fucking... They were screeching at him as if he were that. That's how they were treating him. That's how they were treating him. And it was fucking embarrassing. Bibi said she looked at his, because she was seeing some stuff about this, and she looked at his wiki page. And she said, as her and her husband were watching, there were edits going on. It was changing back and forth. People were editing in their fucking racist slurs. Harkening back to the good old fucking yellow scare days. Talking about his favorite food is dog. And using racial slurs to describe who he was. We are barreling toward a hurricane. And the masters of our ship, they have a mental model in place. And they keep thinking they're going to be able to avoid that. To get around the fucking lee side, to get around to the fucking south of it, and beat it and get safe into Puerto Rico and deliver the fucking goods and make that advancement and that career advancement. And they're going to do it willy-nilly despite what the bridge resource management would tell them to do. And everybody else is saying, no, this is not going to fucking work. We are rushing headlong into World War III with a country that has more soldiers, with a country that has better weapons, with a country that has more nukes, and with a country right now, if we got into a world war and it was China and their side versus the United States and our side, who do you think is going to be on our side? Great Britain? Israel? The surrender monkeys of France? Who is going to be on our side? I'll tell you who's going to be on theirs. Russia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, India, Pakistan. Should I go on? A number of countries in the European Union. Oh, we got Canada. Oh, Canada. The Mounties. They'll be helpful. Mexico will be with them. 90% of the global south will be with them. What side are we going to be on? That's a fucking Category 5 hurricane. And even if it never is a shooting war, if it's just a fucking Cold War, an economic war, where they get the whole fucking world to say, screw these people. We're dropping the dollar. We're doing our trade in the yuan. We're doing our trade in the ruble. We're doing our trade in the peso, whatever the fuck else it is. Even if it's just an economic war, it's still a fucking Category 5 hurricane. Just like that fucking captain, we can't see. The people who run this country can't fucking see. They can't see what is obvious to everybody else. And that is, there is a massive fucking hurricane on the horizon, and we are steaming into it. Why? Because we can't bring ourselves to accept the fact that our goddamn corrupt, fully neoliberalized free market system is neither wanted by the rest of the fucking world nor respected by the rest of the world anymore. Yeah, it made a bunch of billionaires. It made a bunch of oligarchs. It helped pay for massive fucking military spending at the expense of everything else in the United States. Sure, we're the bullies. But you know what happens to the fucking schoolyard bully eventually, right? We can't admit that the ship is rusted and full of holes, and we have been not taking care of it, and it is literally collapsing right underneath us. We are listing 18, 20 degrees port side right now. And we're all walking around and they're telling us, oh, there's no fucking problem. There's no goddamn hurricane on the horizon. Well, the sky is red and it's morning. And it's long past time we came to understand that the system that they want to keep in place, they want to replace it with this fourth industrial revolution, which is just the same goddamn system, just in such a way that we'll never be able to escape it. The system that they want to install, the system that we have installed, is inferior. It's inferior because it is designed to create billionaires and oligarchs and suck the lifeblood out of any fucking nation where it's implemented. And it's doing so to us. They were unable to recover any of the bodies, which is horrible. On the Faro. And there's images of it resting on the bottom of the sea where they found it. This is a 3D rendering of how it looked. And that's going to be the investigation that happens to our country. What the fuck happened to Rome? How did this happen to Rome? That's going to be us. Somebody's going to be doing 3D renderings of us. And not that great distant a future. It's not going to be long from now. We have to get rid of these fucking people. We have to get rid of all these people. Salon fucking jumps on the Republicans for being fucking going off on their bizarre racism towards the Chinese. Well, you know, that's pretty obvious. But the left are the same. The other day, Friday, they had a vote, and Rand Paul put up this bill to end the authorization for use of military force that was initiated in 2001 after the trade centers. Of the 100 senators who could vote, I think 3 abstained, 4 abstained. Then there were 7, other than Rand Paul, who voted for his bill to end the authorization. And all the rest voted to keep the authorization in place. An equal number of Republicans and Democrats all said, oh, no, 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 no. Full steam ahead. There are calmer fucking heads who are advising us. We've got to stop with what's going on in Ukraine. We've got to stop trying to fucking poke a stick at fucking China. We've got to start trying to negotiate and talk with people rather than threaten them and sanction them and regime change them into our way of fucking doing business. But we'll never fucking do that as long as the people who own the fucking country are the ones who are steering the fucking ship. And the people who own the country should be us. But we were told that in not so many words the last couple of elections, that we don't have any say and they don't really care what the fuck we think. If we don't take control of this fucking ship, and that's the final message I have about the sinking of El Faro. There were a number of people on board that vessel as it was steaming into the fucking storm, while the captain was downstairs taking his time off and away from off the bridge. They could have easily changed course. They could have, and they all were of the same fucking mindset. This is crazy. We shouldn't be doing this. But they didn't. Because in their heart of hearts, they believed in the system as it was. They didn't want to fucking commit a mutiny and lose their job. So they stuck by the captain's decision and they steamed right into the fucking their deaths. At some point in time, people have to say, we've got to take control of our own goddamn destiny. That's one of the things that we hate about other countries. That's one of the things that the Chinese say they support. Sovereignty. The right for a people to decide their own fucking fate. To lay their own fucking course. When the captains of our fucking ship are heading us willy-nilly into a fucking hurricane for their own goddamn benefit, or for the benefit of those fucking people that they like to fucking suck up to, the billionaires and the oligarchs and the trillionaires, whoever the fuck it is. At some point in time, it's up to us to say, that's it. We're changing course. And we're doing so immediately. Now, it seems like that might be happening in France as we speak. I know that there's not a whole lot of coverage on it. I'm going to spend tomorrow taking a closer look at that and doing as much as I can on that. But this is where we are. And we can't keep wishing it away. This is where we are. The hurricane's not going to go away. It's not going to move up to the north. We're not going to be able to skirt around to the south. We're not going to be able to bust right through it like gangbusters and get to the fucking port in safe harbor and say, see that? We've won. We beat China. We beat Russia. You're not going to. We're not going to. They offer a more stable and a more they offer something that other countries want more than we do, more than what they want from us, more than what we offer, which is control and fucking austerity and corruption, like Zelensky. There's not many Zelenskys out there. That's why we love him so much and we treat him like a prince when he comes here, because there's not that many of them out there. Not anymore. They built a better mousetrap. And we have to acknowledge that. At least in terms of dealing with foreign policy. At least in terms of dealing with other countries. They have the carrot, we have the stick. And people are less and less afraid of the stick if the guy who's holding the carrot is bigger. Anyway, thank you for your time. Have a good Sunday. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.